South Sudanese president refuses to sign a peace deal to end the country's civil war. A new twist as Kenya's Catholic bishops ask faithfuls to boycott polio vaccine. And where do you find beauty? An American photographer takes us to unexpected places. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. South Sudanese President Salva Kiir is refusing to sign the latest peace deal aimed at ending the country's 20-month civil war because, according to his spokesman, he does not want to share power. Mediators at the talks say Kiir did not sign the agreement and asked for 15 days to consult with his constituencies. We get more from Africa 54's Esther Githui-Ewart.
Mediators at the talks in the Ethiopian capital of Addis Ababa say Mr. Kiir told them he needs 15 days before he can sign the agreement, during which time he will return home and consult with various constituencies. Rebel leader Riek Machar said he was surprised by Mr. Kiir's decision.
To me, there is no reason why he requested for more time. He has got a good agreement. If it is power sharing, he has at all levels, whether it is national level, they have a lion's share. At the state level, they have a lion's share. So I didn't see why he did not sign it.
The proposed agreement was signed Monday by Machar and the head of South Sudan's ruling party. But the deal appeared meaningless after the president rejected it. Jan Eliasson is the United Nations Deputy Secretary General.
I hope this is a historic day. I hope this is the day when we were meeting here, full of expectations that the 17th of August 2015 would be the turning point. It is about the fate of this nation, and it is, of course, a grave duty to take the right decisions. But I hope the decisions are taken now and as soon as possible, since there is so little time to waste. Even 15 days is a long time for those who have paid the price for so long.
On the government's Twitter account, Mr. Kiir said, "Peace that cannot be sustained cannot be signed." His decision is the latest blow to peace talks between South Sudan's government and rebels, sponsored by the East African bloc IGAD, as well as several other countries, including the United States and China. In Washington, U.S. State Department spokesman John Kirby said the United States would look at ways to raise the cost for intransigence if South Sudan does not sign the peace agreement. South Sudan's war erupted in December 2013, following a political dispute between President Kiir and Machar, his former deputy. The United Nations says the war has since displaced more than 2.2 million people, 1.5 million internally and 730,000 to neighboring countries. The UN mission in the country says it is sheltering nearly 200,000 civilians on its bases. Esther Githui-Ewart, VOA News, Washington.
Well, for more on the stalled peace deal, VOA's Eskinda Firo joins us on the phone from Addis Ababa. Eskinda, would you say President Kiir's refusal to sign caught people by surprise?
I cannot give a direct answer for that, Vincent, because it depends on which people we are talking about. You know, if we are talking about the South Sudanese diaspora here in Addis Ababa, for example, I believe they are not surprised. I was talking to the South Sudanese diaspora here in Addis Ababa last week, and most of them did not expect an agreement to be signed by the August 17 deadline. They were pessimistic that an agreement would be reached by the August 17 deadline. But I think the IGAD plus mediators are surprised, not because he did not sign, but because of the manner he demonstrated that. Sunday before midnight, both Kiir and Machar had agreed to sign the document, and according to the chief IGAD mediator, Masfin, who I talked to yesterday, his secretariat spent the whole night preparing the document for signature. It was the next morning, that means yesterday, that President Kiir changed his mind and asked for more time.
Now,
that's why I say maybe the IGAD plus mediators are surprised.
Which is really confusing because his representative, Mr. Pagana Moom, signed the document. What is it in this document that suddenly changed overnight that made him change his mind? Anybody knows?
We hear that Kiir did not agree on the executive power the first vice president is going to have. According to the document, President Kiir will lead the transitional government of national unity, and his rival, Dr. Machar, will assume the first vice president position. But according to the document, the president needs the consent of the first vice president when making major decisions. We are hearing from the mediators that this is the key issue that Kiir did not agree upon.
Okay, now very quickly, and it's we don't understand why Pagana Moom signed onto the document anyway, but give us some updates on what's going on today in Addis Ababa.
Today, Vincent, the IGAD plus mediators are meeting at the United Nations Conference Center in Addis Ababa. I am there now attending that meeting. Why they are meeting today is they did not put their signature on the agreement document yesterday. So the IGAD plus member countries and organizations are right now putting their signature on the agreement document. As you know, this newly expanded IGAD plus mediation team includes countries like the United States, China, Norway, United Kingdom, the African Union, the European Union, the United Nations, and other African countries and organizations from around the world. So,
well, we'll be watching developments here.
So they are putting their signature on the document.
Okay, we'll see what comes of this development. Thanks a lot, Eskinder. Viewers, Eskinder Pharaoh reporting live from Addis Ababa. Well, now, police in Thailand have released video of a suspected bomber in Monday's deadly blasts that killed at least 22 people at a popular Hindu shrine in central Bangkok. The footage from a security camera outside the shrine shows a dark-haired man in a bright yellow shirt who casually sits and takes off his backpack on a bench, leaving it behind as he walks away. Now, police say the blast occurred shortly after he left. Viewer Steve Hammond recaps Mondays and tells us about a second smaller blast on Tuesday.
Police say no one was injured after an explosive device was tossed from a bridge into a river next to a ferryboat pier. Coming less than 24 hours after this fatal blast in the heart of the capital, it raises additional fears about who is behind the attacks and their motivation. No claim of responsibility has been made for either explosion. Authorities released this video of what they say is the suspected bomber, leaving a backpack at the Erawan shrine shortly before the blast Monday evening. The head of the military junta running the government is trying to reassure foreigners that Thailand remains safe.
The ongoing attempts at destruction might be politically motivated, targeting the economy, tourism, for whatever reason. The government will work to find the perpetrators and bring them to justice as soon as possible.
The economic impact is already being felt. The Thai baht has slumped to a 6-year low against the U.S. dollar. Investors widely sold Thai stocks on Tuesday, and tour operators are confirming immediate cancellations by those too frightened to travel to the kingdom.
I have a heart for the people from Thailand, and I pray for the people that could die. It's terrible. It's not good.
Workers who are highly dependent on tourists say they fear another blast could wipe them out economically.
I don't want it to happen again. If it does, I don't know what to do.
Hong Kong has issued a red alert for its residents to avoid non-essential travel to Thailand. Many here fear other governments could soon issue similar warnings. Steve Herman, VOA News, Bangkok.
Well, thanks a lot, Steve. We want to know now what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Coming up, Kenya's Catholic bishops call on faithfuls to boycott polio vaccine. Stay with us.
This is Greenbeat for a healthier planet.
Waste not, want not. That could be the motto of a shopping center in Brazil that's growing vegetables for its employees on its rooftop by using the waste from the mall at the garden. Besides providing food for employees, the initiative aims to reduce the mall's carbon footprint by reducing the amount of trash that would end up in a garbage dump. About 400 kilos of organic waste are generated every day from the mall's eateries, explains Cicero Evangelista, who is in charge of recycling.
We weigh the material and add enzymes that eliminate bacteria, reduce humidity, and accelerate decomposition. This is how we turn organic waste into organic compost.
In an effort to save as much waste as possible, workshops are held for mall employees so they can learn how to best collect garbage from their stores. Now that's something to feel good about, a project that reuses, reduces, and has social benefits. I'm Rebecca Ward for VOA's Green Beat.
Well, South Africa is one of the top tourist destinations in Africa. However, tourist numbers are on the decline. Now, this is attributed to South Africa's new visa regulations that are making it difficult for international visitors, particularly those traveling with minors under the age of 18, gain entry into the country. Kingsley Makori, the man in charge of marketing the country to the world, agrees the new visa laws are hurting the country, but is hopeful authorities will strike a balance between protecting the vulnerable and letting in tourists who bring much-needed income.
I think when the new visa regulation was issued out, the intention was basically to protect these vulnerable people and to deal with this multi-billion-dollar business that is emerging in terms of trafficking human beings. And the issue here is that, and this is what it's coming from the tourism industry, that is having unintended consequences on tourism. What I'm glad about is the president has set up a forum to basically deal with this unintended consequence and be able to strike the balance between protecting these vulnerable people and allowing tourists into the country. I think it's going to be a delicate balance to really find, but there is a system in place to try to address this issue.
Well, Kingsley Makori, CEO, Brand South Africa, spoke to VOA's Anita Powell in Johannesburg. Now, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation sells around 1 million barrels of oil a day, or almost half of the country's total production. There are concerns that most of the money cannot be accounted for. In 2014, Nigeria's central bank governor said $20 billion in oil revenues went missing. A new report by the Natural Resource Governance Institute proposes ways in which Nigeria can stem corruption and ensure oil revenues will benefit the nation rather than individuals. Africa 54 business correspondent Alexis Christophorus spoke with one of the co-authors of the report.
Christina, you co-authored a report by the Natural Resource Governance Institute on oil in Nigeria. We see a lot of reports on this topic, but tell us what's different about this report.
Well, this report is different because it delves very deeply into a very complex and technical area of government crude oil sales that have been deliberately kept opaque, and lots of corruption and bad practices thrive in technicalities and complexities. So we hope that we've demystified the report and provided a useful tool for people who want to understand how the government sells its crude and where the waste and mismanagement is.
What were some of the key findings of that report, briefly?
The biggest area of waste and mismanagement that we found lay with NMPC's downstream arm, PPMC. Every year, PPMC gets 160 million barrels of crude oil for NMPC's refineries. Now, as you and I know, the refineries don't work very well. In fact, last year, they only ran at 14% of their capacity. But NNPC still gets the 160 million. So it's got 120 million barrels of crude oil that it manages. Now, it uses the money from that. It exports some of that crude and drops some of that crude for gasoline and kerosene. And it has been retaining more and more money this way. And under Nigeria's constitution, oil revenues should go to the federal revenue account, but it has been keeping more and more money back, retaining more money. Another area of concern that we identified is that Nigeria uses a lot of what we call middlemen to sell its crude. These are politically connected companies or companies owned by individuals with political connections who don't necessarily have the money or the expertise to be selling Nigeria's crude. We think that they should at least be contracting this function out to qualified traders or selling much more directly to refiners in foreign countries. We call them end users.
Is privatizing Nigeria's 4 refineries the answer, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. We think that the refineries should be privatized. We also think that the whole downstream should be privatized because it's like an endless black hole for money. If you privatize them, you can raise money to invest in new, more profitable investments, and also you will stem the losses.
I thank you. We're going to have to leave it there. I thank you for your insights. Christina Katsouris is oil analyst from London for Energy Intelligence. Thanks so much for your time.
Well, it's time now for health reports, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu. What do you have for us today, Lino?
Hello, Vincent, and welcome back. Well, the World Health Organization says Pakistan and Afghanistan must intensify efforts to halt the spread of the crippling poliovirus. The WHO warns that vaccinations of international air travelers in Afghanistan are not being tracked, quote, and no exit screening and restriction of unvaccinated travelers has been implemented at international airports. According to the WHO, no cases of wild poliovirus has been reported in Africa. However, Madagascar had 9 cases of vaccine-derived poliovirus this year. Polio attacks the nervous system and can cause irreversible paralysis within hours of infection and often spreads among young children. Now, in recent years, the international campaign to rid the world of polio has been hampered in some Muslim countries by claims from some clerics that the polio vaccine is really an undercover campaign to sterilize Muslim children. Now, an anti-polio campaign in Kenya is meeting opposition from another direction, Kenya's Catholic bishops, who are calling on the faithful to boycott the vaccine in that country. Lenny Ruvaga has more on the story.
Mid-morning in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. Workers from the Ministry of Health are doing rounds immunizing children against polio. Mary Samula, a teacher, welcomes the team into her home, eager to get her newborn Chantel immunized. The first round of the campaign ended August 5th, and the Ministry of Health says it's on its way toward achieving its goal of reaching 6 million children when the campaign ends September 2nd. Despite calls by the Catholic Church to reject the vaccine, Samula, who is Catholic, welcomes it.
I'd like my baby to be immunized because I don't want my child to be paralyzed. That's the first thing. And also, I listen to my own voice. I like my baby to grow up as a normal child.
As the campaign was beginning, Kenya's Catholic bishops called for a boycott of the polio vaccine, saying it has not been thoroughly tested. The bishops also said the vaccines were birth control in disguise. They had raised similar objections earlier this year to a tetanus vaccination campaign.
We are in a status where now we must be able to kind of determine our own destiny.
But Dr. Nicholas Muraguri, the Health Ministry's Director of Medical Services, says the bishop's concerns are baseless.
The polio vaccine that is being used this campaign from 1st to 5th August is safe. It has gone through all the quality assurance system, including our own confirmation in our own laboratories that the vaccine is safe.
Catholic officials contacted by VOA elsewhere in the world would not comment specifically on the Kenya bishop's position, saying only that local church leaders have a responsibility to protect their congregations. But writings from Catholic church leaders approve of vaccines and see them both as a way to protect individual lives and public health. Lenny Ruvaga for VOA News, Nairobi, Kenya.
The World Health Organization has announced that Somalia is free of the polio virus after no cases of the illness were reported in the past year. Now, the Somali Ministry of Health and its partners say they hope to announce full eradication of the virus in the next 3 years. Abdulaziz Bilo reports from VOA from Mogadishu.
After years of massive vaccination campaigns against polio, the World Health Organization and the Ministry of Health jointly declared Somalia polio-free.
Since 1 year, we have no polio case in Somalia. We hope that our vigilance, our surveillance system will continue, and inshallah, after 3 years, if we will declare after 3 years eradication of polio from Somalia.
For years, Somali health authorities, with the support of UN agencies and the World Health Organization, worked to vaccine millions of Somali children, mostly under the age of 5. The virus has sickened many children in south-central Somalia, formerly under the control of the terrorist group Al-Shabaab.
In 2013, we recorded 189 cases of polio in Somalia. That was the biggest population of all cases combined in the world. So we're optimistic about the latest development, and we hope to put more efforts in vaccination and to the parents. Polio has no cure, only prevention.
Polio is a contagious viral disease that can cause paralysis in its victims. This child in a displacement camp is a living example of how serious the polio virus is. He can't walk like normal children, but only crawls. To avoid any repeat of this crisis, the Health Ministry and its international partners have promised to step up the immunization program all across the country. Polio remains endemic in 3 countries: Afghanistan, Nigeria, and Pakistan. Until polio virus transmission is interrupted in these countries, all countries remain at risk of importation of polio, especially in the polio virus importation belt of countries from West Africa to the Horn of Africa. Abdulaziz Bilo for VOA News, Mogadishu.
And that's our Africa Health Report for today. Back to you, Vincent.
Well, Lino, thanks a lot, and be sure to watch Lino Mudu's health reports every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. And where do you find beauty? An American photographer takes us to unexpected places. We'll be right back.
My name's Carla Babb, and I work the Pentagon beat. That access helps me to do better stories. Every day it's my responsibility to collect all of the defense news. It keeps our VOA viewers informed. I get to travel all across the globe. Anything that's defense related and how to protect and keep people safe, that's where I'll go. So it's never a dull moment at the Pentagon. My name is Carla Babb. This is my beat.
Welcome back. Now, where do you find beauty? Fashion magazines, music videos? Well, one American photographer is finding beauty in unexpected places. And a new documentary about his work might help change the traditional standards of who is beautiful. VOA's John Walker has the story.
Rick Gadati put aside his career as a fashion photographer to turn his lens to people living with genetic, physical, and behavioral differences. He says what changed his perception of beauty was a chance encounter with an albino girl.
I was just tired of people telling me who was beautiful. Every season that face would change, but I was always told who was beautiful. And as an artist, I don't see beauty just on covers of magazines. I see it everywhere. So that kind of was my initial I opened my eyes a little wider and wider.
Gadati has created Positive Exposure, a not-for-profit organization that uses photography and video to transform public perceptions and promote a world where differences are celebrated. Gadati and Positive Exposure are featured in a new documentary called On Beauty.
These kids are gorgeous.
Hey yo, depending on the day and depending on what I ate, I'm anywhere from 20.
The cast and crew recently hosted a screening at Georgetown University in Washington. One of the women featured in the film is Jane Wathera.
I never had self-esteem. I would never speak about my condition. I never thought I was beautiful because nobody said that to me. But my meeting him was my profound moment. I remember that particular day he took my picture and I felt so good. I felt there's somebody who really loves me and sees me for who I am and who sees me more than my condition.
The documentary is the brainchild of producer Joanna Rudnick. After seeing Rick's photos, she decided to tell his story.
Rick has been way ahead of us for years, and we're just catching up to him. This is the movement of today. We can no longer live within this confine. It's boring and it's discriminatory, it's exclusionary, and there's just too much sadness around that, and there's no room for growth. It's time to explode that.
Joanna and Rick are traveling from city to city to promote On Beauty. They say their tour is not about money, it's about the message.
As we travel from community to community and we're taking photographs and we're empowering individuals with a positive sense of who they are, they're seeing beauty in their reflection, but we're also empowering their families and then in turn empowering their communities as well. All based on the philosophy of change, how you see how you change.
On Beauty is currently screening in Los Angeles and New York City. For VOA News, I'm John Walker.
Really profound there. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us in Washington, have a good night.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words.
Does this word mean something good has happened?
Unleashed. The president is sending Secretary of State John Kerry to the Middle East to help build a coalition to defeat the militants who have unleashed a wave of violence that has included attacks on Iraq's Christians and other minority communities, and recently the videotaped killing of American journalist James Foley.
Unleashed means to let something very powerful happen quickly.
It is like taking a leash off a dog and letting it attack someone. In our story, the militants unleashed or set off a wave of violence.
Usually, unleashed does not mean something good.
So, the next time you hear the word unleashed, you will know what this news word means.